Of a News You Can Use podcast. Trying to see, is it recording? Oh, yeah. Welcome to another episode of a News You Can Use podcast. My name is Frenchair Gardner. I am the host of a News You Can Use podcast, and I'm trying some new technology out, so bear with us. I think there might be a delay. I want to welcome our business spotlight on the line, Dr. Ketra Davenport-King. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you so much. Thank you for having me today as your guest, and I'm excited to be here.
Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. I've actually met Dr. Ketra 2 weeks ago at the Half Price Books store locally here in Dallas, Texas. We were both the local author highlights features, and we were selling our books at the store, and started talking to her, and she had a similar story to myself, and really had a dynamic way of presenting it, and I wanted to talk more about her. Before I go ahead and start, I want to read Dr. Ketra's bio, which is she is charismatic, energetic, and captivating, are words that describe the personality of Dr. Ketra. Armed with over 20 years of serving the community, Dr. Davenport-King is an advocate, speaker, mentor, life coach, and philanthropist who has radically impacted the lives of believers under the flagship of her ministry. Dr. Ketra L. Davenport-King, a native of Dallas, Texas, received her Bachelor of Arts in Science in Christian Counseling, Master of Arts in Christian Education, and Masters of Business Administration from Dallas Baptist University. She earned her Doctorate of Strategic Leadership from Regent University. She has spent much of her life serving people in various capacities. One of her greatest joys is starting Life After Advocacy Group Incorporated in 2004 to help individuals who have been victims of sexual abuse recover and live a healthy life. Dr. Ketra opened the doors to Rock Dimensional Consulting, formerly known as KLD Consulting Services, in 2005. Through RDC, she has spent the past 15 years coaching and training leaders, developing and educating church ministries, hosting leadership seminars and workshops. Dr. Ketra is known for her innovative and engaging leadership seminar named the Leadership ReCourse, designed to reconnect today's leaders back to collaborative leadership. Dr. Ketra wholeheartedly believes, and quotes, "When you live in a community, there should be a handprint of your work left behind for future generations." Out quotes. She launched the North Vernon Women's Community Bible Study Group in 2015 to bridge the gap and bring together a diverse group of women to improve the family dynamic in underserved communities. Her greatest accomplishment is her new book, Seeing Beyond the Shattered Glass, which is a fictional memoir based on her true life events. Also becoming a #1 best-selling author and receiving a Henry Award winning author in 2021. Dr. Ketra is confident that her books will inspire victims of sexual abuse who have suffered in silence to speak the truth. All right, Dr. Ketra, that is your bio. So now tell us more about you. Give us your tell us who you are. Give us some historical background. Where you from and where you at?
Okay, well, first of all, thank you so much again for allowing me to be your guest. And yeah, that was my whole resume. I'm always chuckling when I hear that read aloud. But nevertheless, a little bit about me is that I am a native of Dallas. I'm that rare native person from Dallas, Texas, and I was born and
I am
raised here.
too.
Yeah, we're rare in our hometown. And I have spent most of my life here. I moved away for a little bit when I got married to my husband. In 2012, I moved to a little town in West Texas and spent some time there. And hopefully and happily, I made myself back home in 2019. But again, Life After Advocacy Group is my passion. I'm an advocate with the hope to give others that door and that begin to be able to become overcomers of childhood sexual abuse, and just using my life as my example, and also just telling my story and telling the stories of others that will impact lives and change people every day. So that's a little bit about me. At the end of the day, I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, I'm a sister, and I'm a daughter, and a wife.
Yes, that's good. So, may I ask you some personal questions in regards to what you just said?
Yeah, I'm transparent. Obviously, it's in my book for your readers. So I'm pretty transparent. You can ask me any questions you like.
Sure. So, how did you discover that you had been sexually abused?
And it's interesting because I don't, for a child who have experienced sexual abuse, childhood sexual abuse, I don't, discovery, I guess, is a little different. The way that God had to deal with me, based on my faith and my belief, is that I had to identify the thing. Because and it's a 3-step process, but we're going to talk about identification. I had to identify that what I thought was normal was abnormal. Because
Okay.
in my life, when you were raised and you are abused and your perpetrator is your biological father, right? You have been raised in this environment where it appears this is normal. Now something may not be wrong, but for a little
Yes.
kid, no different. You only know what you are exposed to. So the process that I had to go is I had to go through the identification that was not normal. That was not supposed to happen. And when I identified that situation was not normal, I went through that season of admitting it happened. I had to admit it. This happened to me. So you have, I would say you have like a fork. You have to decide: are you gonna be angry? Are you gonna overcome? Which one are you gonna do? You can't do both. Now in the overcoming, you have what you call your emotional stages. So you get angry, you get upset, you ask the question, why me, why did this happen to me? But those are recovery spaces. Those are times that you need to get through that situations and those situations. So I feel like that I had to admit, and then I had to identify it, I had to admit, and then I had to accept it. So now again, I'm 51 years old. So you take that over a lifespan. So I'm not telling to anyone who may be listening to this that, today you're going to say, I identified that I was abused, I was sexually abused, and yes, I admit it happened to me, and I accept it. However, I think that those stages, they impact people's lives differently. Like for me, it was a almost like a 25-year process. It wasn't like overnight. It wasn't anything that I just woke up one day and said, what I can say is that because my heart was never hardened toward my dad, because he was my dad, he was daddy to me. So my heart was never hardened. I had that natural love for my dad. So
yes,
that also helped and aided in my forgiveness process. So my forgiveness process became that I had to identify, I had to admit, and I had to accept that it happened, so that I can start my forgiveness journey. So in regards to discovery, I think that I don't know if I discovered it, but I will say is that I had to identify it.
I definitely understand what you're saying. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so in that process, did you turn to anybody for help? Did you go to any professional counseling or therapy, or how did you handle your healing process?
Yeah, that's a good question, because yes, I did have counseling. I went through therapy. Again, this was a 25-year process for me. That I began to just definitely walk into my wholeness and my healing and my wholeness. I also I have a great circle. I have a great circle of people around me that are very impactful, that truly pray for me and truly stand in the gap, as well as my mother. You know, my mother is my anchor. She has always been there. She's very supportive. She was not the mother who denied it. She helped me with my recovery process. So, you know, having a circle of
Good.
influence, because your influence influenced you. So I went to therapy. Yes, I did, and I still go to therapy because I think counseling is forever. Like, you don't just say, oh, I went to counseling this time in my life and now I don't need it anymore. I think good mental health, and when you learn how to deal with effective mental health, you always find a space in your life where you say, oh, this is my season of counseling. I need to go and talk to someone, and I think that's okay. Especially in our community, we have to be okay with understanding
Yes.
that counseling is not one step; it's ongoing. Different seasons, different situations on how you cope with it. So I did go to counseling, and in my first book, Seeing Beyond the Shattered Glass, actually that book gives you some snippets and snapshots of counseling sessions, because the background
Oh wow.
of that book is in the counseling's office. It's Cassie Noel is the main character, which is my character, which is me. And you will spend a lot of time with Cassie in her counseling sessions.
Very nice. So tell us how the writing process came about for you.
Well, writing is it's never easy. It could be very cathartic. It could be very gurgitating, right? So this was a
Yes.
15-year journey. For my first book, See Me on the Shattered Glass, I went through many drafts of that book. I wrote many versions of that book. It was many titles before it became Singing Beyond the Shattered Glass. But that was a 15-year journey. Honestly, when I decided to sit down in 2020, when we were forced to sit, that I had this manuscript, and I said, well, hey, what better time to go ahead and finish this now, because I'm forced to be at home and I'm forced to find something creative to do. Well, I used that time to take
Yes.
these manuscripts, had a great writing coach, and they were able to allow me to develop the story, because a lot of my ups and downs was, did I want to write it in fiction or do I want to write it in nonfiction? Because I'm a palatable writer, because I want people to, I don't want you to focus on my message. I want you to get the healing in the word. I guess I don't want you to focus on the story. Let me say that, because sometimes some stories can be so explicit that you can't really get the message. So I want to make sure I say that correctly. I want
Yes.
you to the message. So I'm very particular, and I'm very palatable when it comes to my writing, because I want the reader, although there are going to be triggers, although there are going to be moments that you may not continue to read because of whatever you're dealing with internally. However, I want you to end the book with hope, that you are not alone,
Yes.
that you help. I want you to be inspired to move from silent to vocal. That is my hope. And so that's always my hope in any of my books, that the reader lead with the message. So that's
I love that, Dr. Ketra.
Thank you.
That's good. That's powerful, very powerful, and I do the same thing. I write to inspire as well, so I feel you on that. So you have several books though. So tell us about all of your books.
Well, Seeing Beyond the Shattered Glass was the first, and then out of that, a year later, I wrote. I feel like I was liberated. Can we just say liberation? Because God wouldn't allow me to write
Okay.
the books until my story was told, and I was like, "Ooh, thank you, Jesus, that I can move forward." So out of that, because I am a Christian trauma, a trauma-based Christian writer, that means I want to deal with your internal trauma, so that you be able to find that vehicle and hope, and find people who can. So out of that came Revelation, with the emphasis on lay, and it deals with dealing with different origins of abuse, but how we are affected within the body of Christ and in our church, and how we tend to mask it, and how it
Mm.
basically breaks down our life and the things that we do and the relationships we have, the relationships we have with our children, the relationships we have with our spouses, the relationships we have with our coworkers, the relationships we have with our friends, because we have this internal secret, or this we have to always stay behind this mask. So because we don't have a place to expose it, we don't have nowhere to talk. In the very place that we have, and we think that we can't discuss it, we're also betrayed there. We don't have a place of comfort. So I deal with revelation is the space of how we as individuals in the body of Christ hurt, and how the church contributes to the hurt, but also how the church can help us forgive, if help us overcome. So revelation came out of that. Then when I wrote in the Uncharted Glass, the question I always asked, what is your forgiveness recipe? How did you forgive your father? And I always say, I just thank God that I'm free. I just thank God that He stripped the chains from me and loosed the shackles and removed the bondage that I had been in, that I was in dysfunctional relationships.
Mm-hmm.
I was in dysfunctional things in my life, and I just thought those things was normal. And I'm still a work in progress. Trust and believe I haven't arrived in any sense. However, I just in the process is a different process, okay? But what I will say
Yes.
is, out of that first book, people always ask. So one of the things that I say, I just thank God that I'm free, and I took that and I wrote my devotional. Finally, a 90-day devotional that deals with my forgiveness recipe. It is broken down in 30-day increments with scriptures and affirmations and prayers that individuals who walk through this 90-day, the first 30 days, are how scriptures surrounded about how to identify any origin of abuse. Sexual abuse that was my issue, along with emotional abuse, verbal abuse, whatever, financial abuse, spiritual abuse, whatever abuse that I dealt with. But my hope as a writer, as a trauma-based writer, is that I can really deal with all origins, and that you just can gravitate wherever you are. So there are 30 scriptures that deals with identification, and then from that I move into the next 30 days, which will take you to your 60 day, which are scriptures dealing with admitting whatever your origin of abuse is, and the last 30 days is dealing with accepting it. So these are all different scriptures, all different prayers, and all different affirmations. And most importantly, because this is a prayer and reflection devotional, it was very important to me,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm a journaler, and I wanted the individual, whoever decides to purchase free or to pick up free, or if you gift it to someone, is that start writing your story. Everybody has a story. We all have a story. We just gotta tell our
Oh
story.
wow.
Every story is different. So there are daily spaces, and I'm that palatable writer. So I didn't want to have a whole devotional full of lines. Like I don't agree with that. However, I do agree that we have to have space to reflect, because it is a reflection devotional.
Sure.
So after each day, you will have a day to reflect, but at the back of it, there's a section at the end of the 90 days for you to begin to write your story. And it says that on those pages, write your story. So you can be able to now say, what is my story? Hopefully God will reveal to you, because it ain't nothing that I can do. It's nothing that this devotional can do. It's going to have to be the Spirit of the Lord that can guide you and help you identify, admit, and accept, and begin to write your story and help somebody else.
That's deep, Dr. Ketra. I love that. That's so powerful. I was telling you how that's definitely, the devotional is definitely a useful tool. And being with your experience and studies, you had the right piece to go head on and put it together.
But yeah, it was definitely a battle. It wasn't overnight. That was a few years of tarrying, because again, any author can relate to this that may be listening, that you have many, and even yourself, you have many directions you start with. You just kind of end up where God leads you to, because I didn't really know how this devotional was going to come about. It started with 30 days, it started with 45 days, but it was so fitting for my forgiveness roadmap. Like it was just a very fitting for me to write the 90 days of a spiritual roadmap to forgiveness and how to deal with your prayer life in your reflection.
I love that. I just love that, and I plan to get a copy for myself so that I can use it. And I'll be honest, I'm not even into scriptures or Christianity or any of that, but I just think that it'll be the tool will be useful in my healing journey.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that because I am who I am, and I know that for me that was my pathway, and I don't want to deter anyone that whatever their belief is, like you just identified. However, this is a forgiveness piece that I found, and these scriptures help me because whatever your spiritual being or whatever you think, however that is that the context of the prayer and the affirmations are in relation to you speaking to yourself. Like, let me intrinsically think about what has happened to me and how it has impacted my life and how I can reflect those things. And that is what I hope. And again, I hope that everyone will pick it up. And I don't want to deter anyone who may be listening today and they say, well, I'm not into spirituality or Christianity, and but my prayer, because who I am, is that God will permeate within your life any way that He needs to help you overcome whatever it is you need to.
Yes, ma'am. So you have some upcoming events coming up?
I had an event this weekend in Houston. I was just going to promote my books, and then August 12th, I will be at Half Price Bookstore in Mansfield, Texas, my hometown. That's why I live in Mansfield, so I'm excited about that, to be able to connect with my community.
Nice.
I'm on community advocacy. And I have a few more things coming up. Please follow me, go to all my social media, and that kind of tell you, because I have several events coming up. But I would love to meet you. I would love to meet your audience, your followers, to come out and at least just say hi, nothing more. Just, we feed off the community.
Yes, we do. That's the truth. Tell us more about what you do with your business, Rock Dimensional Consulting. What does that entail?
Okay, good. Because, hey, we have our twofold. So RDC, Rock Dimensional Consulting, is building businesses on a solid foundation. My background is in business, and I've spent over 25 years doing business management, coaching, leadership training, one-on-ones, you name it, right? Helping people start their businesses, LLCs, non-profit, for-profit, any kind of consulting. So Rock Dimensional came about in 2010, actually. It started under my name, KLD Consulting, and then the Lord moved me to go to Rock Dimensional, and where I help individuals who have what I discovered, let me pause right here because I want to make sure I stay in my lane. What I've discovered since I have been an entrepreneur and an individual who really wants to support my community of people is that oftentimes we have great vision, we have great desires, and we'll start the business, but we don't set it on a solid foundation. So we gotta go back to once we start the business to get it right. We need to just have it right. So my job and my duty to help businesses start on a solid foundation. Like, let's get all your stuff together so that you can go and do whatever it is that you are called to do, however it is. But you don't have to piggyback and say, oh, now I need to go and get my LLC. Now I need to get established in a non-profit. Or which one do I need? Do I need to be for-profit, or do I need to do this? And I have found that to be very rewarding because that's my vocation background, is in business and business development. So
yes.
I help a lot of people with that. I'm grateful for that. I'm not that silent person. Usually you hear about Rock Dimensional unless you follow me or people refer you to me in regards to your business needs. But I'm very adamant about helping my community make sure your businesses are sustainable and that you have everything you need to not leave any money on the table, but also make sure you are credible when you're standing in front of people talking about your business.
That's very needed. That's very needed.
Thank you so much.
Well, tell us two things. Tell us where would we find your books? So where can we buy your books? And then tell us where you are on your social media. How we can connect with you.
Okay, so you can find me on all social media platforms at Dr. Ketra, or you can just Google me, Dr. Ketra L. Davenport-King, and it'll all come up. Okay, so I always say Google me. I'm on Twitter,
Nice.
now X. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I have Life After Advocacy Group is my organization. You can go to www.lifeafterad.org, or you can reach Dr. Ketra. It's easy, drketra.com. That's it, drketra.com. Everything is under Dr. Ketra. If you Google that or you go to my website, you will find all my books on my website. I prefer you to order from my website because you get an autographed copy, and plus I get to have I love to autograph those who support me your books. I do. However, that's the caveat. You can't find my books on Amazon. You can't find my books on Barnes & Noble. You can't find my books on Goodreads. You can find my books there. However, I push my website because I like to have a relationship with my readers. And you can also chat with me on my website too.
I love that. Yes. Good stuff. Y'all connect with Dr. Ketra. I love the Google Me effect. I say that too. I love that.
Google.
Before we go, Dr. Ketra, you've already dropped a lot of gems today, but we'll drop us 2 gems that you would give to any aspiring business owner or entrepreneur.
Well, so I'm gonna give you on my twofold of me, on my organization and my business. Well, I kind of gave you Rock Dimensional Consulting, building businesses on a solid foundation. Get your business right so you don't have to get right. Connect with someone who's going to be authentic, that's going to be truthful, and that is in it to help and serve you and not to be served. I believe that. So if you're looking for that, I'm very transparent. You can reach me at Rock Dimensional Consulting, building businesses on a solid foundation. In regards to Life After Advocacy Group and Dr. Ketra, the struggle has no hold on the outcome. What I mean by that, no matter what it is you've been through, whatever it is you've experienced, that struggle does not control your outcome. You control that narrative. So remember that the struggle has no hold on the outcome.
Yes, Dr. Ketra, you better preach today.
Thank you so much. This has been amazing. I really hope that someone who may be watching or watches at a later time that your life is influenced and impacted not only by what work I do, but by the work that you do, Ms. Gardner, and as well as any other person. Connect with the right people so that you can go in the right place.
That's right. You were telling the truth about that. We need each other.
Yes, we do.
Well, Dr. Ketra, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to me and the News You Can Use podcast audience. I will be dropping all of your information on the show notes. But once again, tell us again before we get out of here how we could connect with you, and we'll end the show with that.
Good. So again, connect with me on any platform, social media platform. Just look up Dr. Ketra, Dr. Ketra. You can go to my website, drketra.com, and you can find me there. Or you can just, at the end of the day, you can Google me, and you can find everything, my videos and everything else about me. So thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you for being on the show. And thanks to everybody for who's tuned in to the podcast. Make sure that you review the podcast wherever you are tuning in. Leave us a rating on Spotify. Go ahead and follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and wherever you're listening to us. We do appreciate your reviews of the podcast because it does help others like yourself to discover the podcast. And if you know of somebody, a BIPOC, black business owner, or musician or artist who is doing impactful work, send them our way so that we can interview them and spotlight them on a News and Use podcast. Thank you. Y'all have a great day.